Hello and welcome to Citizen Speak. I'm your host, Garrett Martin. Thank you so much for listening today. Let's talk about Ted Cruz. He is now number 2 in the Iowa polls, ahead of Ben Carson. Not really a huge shocker as far as him coming up in the polls. He hasn't really done anything or said anything. He's just been kind of skating by. And Ben Carson has continued to open his mouth, and he is learning the hard way that when he speaks, well, that tends to be his downfall. Ben Carson had a run of bad luck all last week where it didn't matter what he said, he just couldn't win. However, Ted Cruz being number 2, there's some people who are really excited about it. They think that because Ted Cruz is number 2, Donald Trump, for his vice president, would pick Ted Cruz. Now, if you look at the past presidential races, that's not really all that common over the past few decades where a president picks the number 2 in the primaries to be his vice president. So, as far as Ted Cruz goes, being Donald Trump's vice president, it wouldn't happen. It's fairly unlikely, and he would be a bad person to have on his side anyway. The reason why I say that is Ted Cruz, if you don't remember, he's one of the main orchestrators of the 2013 government shutdown. If you don't remember that, well, it was Congress trying to hold our government hostage while they negotiated on the debt ceiling. And Ted Cruz was one of the big players in the game, and he wanted Obamacare slashed, and he wanted other government social programs slashed because, well, he doesn't like socialism. And that's fair, if you don't like socialism, but you don't hold the country hostage for it. You act like a big boy, and you do your job, and you negotiate these things well in advance before the government shuts down and our credit gets decreased. And I know that they're just trying to discredit Obama with the attacks and saying, oh, well, our debt rating has gone down because Obama didn't negotiate in time and the debt ceiling had hit, and, well, we had defaulted a little bit, so it must be President Obama's fault. How about we blame it on the laziest Congress in U.S. history? Yeah, they have a huge part to do with it. And Ted Cruz was one of the people behind the wheel driving. Not only that, but any time that Ted Cruz talks about religion, which is just about every single time he opens his mouth, it's never that we need equal voices of religion in the town square. It's always, we need to get back to the way that our founding fathers had set up the country on religion. And that religion is Christianity. That's what Ted Cruz wants. He wants the entire country to go to a Christian country. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He doesn't even want to let people in that aren't Christian. For example, last week with the Syrian refugee crisis that's going on, one of his comments is that we should set up a system and only allow in good Christians to our country because they'll be the backbone of the refugees, and they'll make a strong stance and create good Americans once they become acclimated. Are you kidding me? We have more Christian terrorists in this country. Most of the school shootings that have happened over the past couple of years have been because of zealots, people who are for the Christian doctrine and believe it wholeheartedly. And I understand that there's mental illness as well, but very few mass shootings are committed by atheists or by Muslims or any other religion. It's Christianity in this country. And I'm not saying that Christianity is the problem, but if you're looking at who's causing the problems here in America, well, you don't have to look too far. But how un-American is that? You're saying that only good Christians should be allowed into this country. Screw everybody else who had to watch their brothers or their moms or their kids be shot or beheaded. Screw them. Go back to your country, Ted Cruz says. Go back to your country so you can die, because we're not going to let you in here. And if we let you in here, well, too bad. We're not going to even help take care of you. We're just going to say, well, if you don't like it here, then you can go back to where you came from. That's the message that Ted Cruz wants to send. I'm not for that. Not for that at all. So, it's not surprising, honestly, that Ted Cruz is leading. I expected him to lead earlier on in the polls than what he has. But the way that the race is going, everybody in the GOP side is just a complete clown. And I'm not saying that to be biased. If you look at their track record and what they've stood for, it's generally been against the common core of America. It's been against socialist ideas like minimum wage, for example. Has anybody who listens to this show ever worked for minimum wage? Yeah, it sucks to an extent, but it's far better than how things used to be. You know, back before the unions fought so hard and helped us get minimum wage for every worker here in the country. Or you like a 5-day work week, you know, only working 40 hours a week at most, and then after that it's overtime pay. Do you like that? Well, those were socialist ideas. Those are things that people in the GOP party would like to take away. And it's a shame. I was talking to someone earlier, and we were looking at the different candidates, and one person who would have made a decent Republican if they would have ran as a Republican, James Webb. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he was running for president on the Democratic side. And during the first Democratic debate, he kept complaining about not having enough time. And it's true, he didn't get much time. They were just trying to pit Hillary and Bernie Sanders against each other. But yeah, if James Webb would have run as a Republican, he would have been a decent candidate. The only other candidate in the GOP field that, if he gained more support, he would be a good one, would be John Kasich. Now, John Kasich still has the do-or-die Christian mentality where Christianity needs to rule the land. But other than that, he's okay as a Republican candidate. He's not really big on the social programs that we have going on. He'd like to reduce some of those. I haven't heard him say that he wants to get rid of them completely, but John Kasich might be okay. But we have Donald Trump, who's just lying. Then we have Ted Cruz, who always, if it's not pro-Christianity, he's not for it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments on this podcast, or make sure you find me on Twitter at SitSpeak. That's CITZ, Speak, on Twitter. Make sure that you like and comment on this podcast, and share it with your friends too. Let me know what you think. All right, you guys have a great rest of the day.